On this special episode of Supercars Talk, the green screen is back, and I chat to a guy who talks about our favourite topic for a living, the Supercars ESeries. On this special episode of Supercars Talk, I've got a special guest that you might remember from the Supercars ESeries, if you have actually been watching, like some of us do watch some of it. It's Jonathan Simon. Welcome.
I'm a bit disappointed, Dave, because when you brought Spanners in yesterday, you lost complete control of the 10 minutes with Spanners. He went on a big ramble. He's a lovely guy. I love him. I won't do that to you, though, today.
As I said, it was nice kind of having someone else talk, because I'm used to just talking to a camera by myself. So it was nice for a change. So I've got you on here to talk about your first car, but apparently it's not so exciting. So we'll see how we go. We might finish off with some ESeries questions. Because I know I actually do have some questions on it, because I don't follow it as closely as what I do the real racing. But we'll start off. What is your first car and only car by the sounds of things?
Yeah, so as soon as I left high school, got my license, I went straight and bought a Toyota that my parents bought and bought it off them, kept it for myself. And the unfortunate thing is people say, oh, when the car breaks down, just upgrade to a new one. You know how Toyotas work. They never break down. So I'm stuck with this car probably for the next 30, 40 years of my life. But it's simply just a Toyota Camry, gets me from point A to point B, which is what I'm happy about. I'm not as privileged or rich enough to be spending money on cars. I need to spend it on other stuff like my broadcasting career. But we'll get there someday. I do want to own a car with some swagger soon, I hope.
Do you have any plans or a dream second car?
I'd love to own like a McLaren P1, but I think people dream and dream, don't they? Yeah, I don't think
probably a little bit unrealistic, that
one. Yeah, look, I just like a car that I have a fancy obsession with a Mini Cooper, the powerful ones.
Yep.
For some reason, I'm really looking at a Mini or any small French car. I did like a Volkswagen Golf, like a GTI, but the problem is, if you go for a walk outside my house, literally every second house has one. And so it sort of ruins the fun out of the Golf GTI.
Hence why I ended up with BMW, because I was told that a Golf GTI is far too common.
Yeah, it is. It's actually quite annoying, because I wanted one for years and now I've got to a point where I have to make another decision.
Yes.
So I'm contemplating what to get next. Suggestions welcome, of course.
Well, it depends on the budget, and I probably wouldn't buy anything at the moment because the price of everything is just out of control.
Very true. Very true.
So is there any modifications or anything to the Camry? Is it at least a cool color? Or please don't tell me it's sky blue.
No, I'll guarantee you it's not sky blue. It's literally a silver one. It's more a toy boater than it is a Toyota. It's a boat, but I do enjoy driving it. I've driven many different cars. I've driven friends' cars and everything. It just gets me from point A to point B, and that's what I'm happy about at this point in my life. I'm coming out of uni, quit my job to try and make broadcasting work. So I need to save up as much cash as I can save.
Fair enough, I suppose then. So no cool road trip stories or anything like that?
How long do we have, though? That's the problem. I've got a lot of cool road trip stories. I don't know how many I'm allowed to say or I want to say, but it's definitely, there's definitely been some cool stories with that beast.
Well, we might focus on the ESeries side of things, because you seem to have a bit more information on that than what I do, and most of the fans of the channel. The burning question on my lips has always been, why don't more drivers or teams, or however it works, play with the color of the rims on the car? I know in last night's telecast, Anton was running some gold rims on his car. And Shane, as much as they were only white rims last year, Shane van Gisbergen was running white rims on the Red Bull car, and it just looks so much better with things like that. Is it like a contractual thing that they want it to look like the actual race car, or yeah?
That's actually a good question that I've never thought of until right now. And I think it's a good question to ask to the team. So I know that it's not something that is, as far as I know, it's not something that's actually painted by the livery painter, Jake Blackhall. He literally does every single livery that you see is painted by him.
Yep.
It's something I think you can select on your own in iRacing. Yep. If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong with that. So I think Anton doing that last night was his own decision. Obviously, you go for yellow and you don't go for, on a Shell V-Power car, go for like Castrol green or, BP green or something like that, of course. So there probably is some sort of contractual thing to it, but I doubt in their contracts it says your rims must be this color. I'm not sure if that's the case.
I know it's something that comes up because when, say, the liveries get released at the start of the year, they'll paint up the wheels, say black on the monster car or something like that. And then, once the car actually hits the track, they all run, the unpainted silver rims. So obviously for a cost kind of thing, but it just say, there's no kind of cost benefit. So
no. As you saw with the immense pileups we had into turn one yesterday.
Yeah, well, that makes it a little bit spectacular, doesn't it? In this series, what happened to Shane van Gisbergen? How come he's not there?
So that's a very good question. We've had a lot of those throughout the series. Why is 888 not racing? They don't even have a Pro Series driver, like an actual sim racer or a gamer. So that's just down to 888 not entering this year. So they were there for 2019. They grabbed Dane Warren, who won the championship this year. They were there for All-Stars, there for the Pro Series last year. But yeah, that's just down to their decision personally. I hope they come back next year. And there's a good chance that they might. It's up to them. But as long as I think teams find that the ESeries is worthy of their time and profitable enough, I see no reason why that every team should enter.
Yeah, because as much as they're a very divisive team, it does seem to be lacking something, even just not having them there.
Are you a 888 fan?
No.
Who do you go for? Anyone?
I follow quite a few drivers now. I was always a HRT fan back in the day. But yeah, kind of Mostert's, I suppose, probably the favourite driver at the moment. But then I quite like Shane van Gisbergen. I was a Scott McLaughlin fan, things like that, and I'm not kind of one side or the other, really.
No, that's good. I don't know. I really don't know anything else about the 888 situation. I think it's always better. I think it's 100% always better if they're there than they're not, obviously in the ESeries, but you just have to respect every team's decision at the end of the day. I'm not really involved in that space either on the commercial side, I'm more in the commentary side, but it is a big loss. It is a big loss having them involved. I love Gizzy as well. The guy, I don't think there's a single thing he can't do on the racetrack. He's good in GTs, in touring cars. He's great in open wheelers. I reckon if you chucked him in those two, Speedway, you name it, he's good in everything. So he's a big loss too. And so is Jamie.
Yeah, because they are characters of the sport. So, and even just, not having the team there seems to, I suppose, take a little bit of credibility away from it.
Yeah, 100%. And so now with Brock Feeney jumping in, you reckon now that they got a young gun in, they get more young fans, they got to enter the E-Series next year. That's the way I'm looking at it.
Well, it would be fair enough. But I'm surprised they haven't signed, like one of the pro guys in.
They had, so the first year, 2019, they had Dane Warren, who was finished third in the championship, if I'm not mistaken, or fourth, one of the two. I think he was third. He won the championship this year. They had Jared Filsell last year. So they've had some good drivers, and they certainly attract the good drivers too. So, if they jump in next year, I think what they need to do is try and snap up Josh Rogers from Walkinshaw, because he's the man. If anyone watched the old Pro Series, was literally the Jamie Whincup of the Pro Series and was unbeatable on certain days.
Yeah. Do the pro guys get to change the setups? Because the All Stars, they all run the one setup, don't they?
Yeah, correct. So it's fixed setup for everybody. So the All Stars, what they have is for the ovals, it was a setup developed by Brody Kostecki, and everybody used it. And yeah, people might say, "Oh, why is he allowed to use his own setup?" I think it's because he's one of the only people who can make one, and is knowledgeable enough to do it on his own on the sim. For the Pro Series, it is literally for anybody who has iRacing. Go and grab the default setup, and apart from a gear ratio change depending on the track, it's pretty much the same setup. And so the lap times you see them doing is literally nothing special in terms of their own setups. We did used to make it open setup in 2019, but I think that puts a lot of stress on the drivers where if you're competing for 6 weeks, open setup basically means if you put in 12 hours a day, it's still not enough. You need to be perfecting these setups in your practice. So I think work-life balance is a big key by making it fixed setup too.
Yeah. Because I imagine these guys are, it's only a toy thing on the sides. It's not a full-time job for any of them, is it?
Not for, I think only, from memory, only Dane Warren is the only Pro Series driver who does it full-time and is contractually signed to do sim racing full-time. Everybody else has a job or is studying at uni or is at school if you're a 16-year-old.
I was going to say there's a few young guys in there, isn't there?
Yeah, we had... And the funny thing is, they're younger than Alex Rullo was back at his debut at the Clipsal 500. So that's how young these drivers are.
So they don't need a super license to enter.
No, which is going to be a big issue for the likes of Matt Payne, who I know Cali Grove would love to see him in a supercar soon.
Yeah, that name really came from left of field for me on that. The first person that told me that name, I actually, and he sent me a message and I replied back, who the is that?
I think he's definitely a phenomenal talent. I think he'll surprise a few people. He's definitely very, very quick. And he's a Kiwi. What is there to complain about? More Kiwis, the better, I reckon.
It depends which side of the fan. There's a lot of fans out there at the moment that are getting very bored of the Kiwi Supercars Championship.
That's true too. That is very true. I can't argue with that.
And at least it's only kind of one of them up the front this year. Fabian's gone to the back and we got rid of Scotty to America. The last kind of ESeries question that I had, what happened to all the ovals that were planned?
So, okay, this is something that, not a lot of fans know about. So the reason behind the ovals in the first place, the choice was, number one, I personally enjoy them. I don't know. Some people say they hate them, but I quite liked racing around them. If anybody watched the race at Pocono, it was phenomenal. That was one of the best oval races we've ever had for supercars, on par with the races we had last year for the All-Stars. But the reason was initially is the majority of drivers, not the consensus, but most drivers wanted to limit practice. And the problem with sim racing is these drivers are natural in the real thing, but not all of them are natural on the sim. And track time isn't limited on the sim as it is in comparison to the real world. So you just rock up to the real world, you've got your practice sessions, quali, that's it. In the sim, to be good, you need to put in hours, and it's putting in a load of stress on drivers who want to just do this for fun. So the reason ovals were picked is it requires limited practice, and you can also still be competitive because drivers still want to have fun, but they don't want to be sitting at the back. They want to be competitive too, and they can ride up the front and still compete for wins. So that was the main reason for picking ovals. I guess everyone got tired of them, which is why we moved to road courses for the second half of the season. So I guess that pretty much sums it up. And I think that's something a lot of people don't understand is that, it does take a lot of practice to be good on a sim, especially on the world stage and on a broadcast.
It's a bit different to, doing a couple of laps and buggering it up just by yourself at home, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. And see, that's another thing where, again, if I was a driver and I say, look, I don't want to practice too much, not out of laziness or anything, but I want to focus on supercars and focus on my life and do this. I don't want to spend 12 hours a day on a computer. staring at a simulator. And so that was an issue last year during All Stars, during the pandemic. It was less of an issue because people had nothing to do and there was a lot of uncertainty. But now with the fact that, people are still going to test days, doing different stuff, that was the main reason for the choice of ovals.
Okay. Yeah. Because I thought it was a little bit strange. And I put it down to because of, like Rick Kelly and David Reynolds last year not being very good at it. And the ovals, I suppose, are a bit more of a level playing field. But I didn't think of that, the kind of people putting in, full days of practice as well, trying to get, whereas I suppose you get up to speed on the oval a bit quicker, especially if you're not, having to play with setups and that.
Yeah, exactly too. But you even saw it still in the ovals. The quick guys were still at the front. Brody Kostecki was snatching poles and all this free Bitcoin thanks to SwiftX. And
get the sponsor plugs in there.
Yeah, you still had to. Richie Stanaway was at the front. Rugia, all the guys, Cam Waters, Mossett, they're all at the front, and the slow guys were still at the back. But you're still in with a shot on an oval, and it's still fun. It's close racing. And I don't know. I quite liked it a few rounds, but I do agree that it was time to move to road courses, and we moved at the right time after a few rounds. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that was, I enjoyed the ovals last year as a bit of a novelty thing, I think. It was something different. Yeah.
Are we ever going back to ovals in the real world, perhaps? Not in the next 10 years?
Have you seen Calder Park recently?
I saw it 6 or 7 years ago, and back then it wasn't in any state to even be walked on. So I remember when I think they took the old Nissan, Rick Kelly's Nissan, was it around there? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
I don't know if that front splitter survived a lap, but it certainly didn't sound like it.
No, it's definitely not in a state for any racing these days. All right, that covers all the questions I had. So thank you very much for coming on. Is there anything you'd like to plug? I believe you've got your own YouTube channel going.
Yeah. I've got a little website and podcast network going. So you can follow me on Twitter at JohnnyS8. You'll probably put that down in the YouTube description, I assume.
If you give it to me, because I'll be honest, I don't know how Twitter works. I'm still working out Instagram, so...
No, that's all good. Yeah, Twitter, Instagram, same handle, JONNYESS8. Somebody already took my full name, so I had to do that. And then... and I've got a website called Channel Klaxon. So it's pretty much just a podcast network, just a bit of fun and a bit of a hobby to the side, along with all the broadcasting stuff I do. So, but thanks for having me on, Dave. Appreciate it.
Thanks very much. That was my chat with Jonathan Simon about his first car. And then we just got into an ESeries discussion because his first and only car as well was not very exciting. Down in the description, all the links to his social media and the stuff he's working on. You can also catch him in the commentary team for the Supercars ESeries. And he does actually come in as a guest sometimes on Missed Apex podcast. I hope you're enjoying this series. I've got quite a few more lined up. So keep an eye out for those. And until next time, I'm still Dave, and I'll catch you later.